He started 6th grade, kind of a happy child, and we just saw this decline in his mood and his willingness to interact with his peers outside of school. So that was certainly what led us to first start having conversations, being able to, kind of digest it, just the information that, my child, who I thought was a daughter, is actually my son. And looking at what my own personal thoughts and beliefs are, as well as really kind of looking and investigating others around us and their responses. I think was really another big piece that we went through. I think I immediately felt like, okay, we're going to have to work with this announcement, and this is who he is. Mm-hmm. So there was always that initial, okay, this is who you are, but then that whole working through just personal thoughts of what we had perceived as what his life was going to be looking like as a female. It wasn't the case anymore. So, I mean, there's like you said, psychological, there's social, medical aspects, and for every person, every trans person, it may look differently. His transition socially, it almost was like flipping a switch from a very shy, quiet child to a very confident, more outgoing person. So that really, I think, was the icing on the cake that led us to believe that, wow, there is no doubt, there should be no doubt in anybody's mind that this is who this kid is. A little bit of layer of comfort knowing that he had a lot of friends, and his school system down in St. Michael's Middle High School was very supportive. So that was so nice to, just in my gut, to know that they were there and they were going to watch out for him. Dr. Helga Einhorn was principal, and I'm going to say she was amazing. She was always within phone contact, email contact, to be able to navigate any situations. She immediately worked on bringing in PFLAG representatives out of Howard County to do professional development. So probably within a 2-month period of Max coming out socially at school, they had people coming in to do professional development for the entire school staff there at St. Michael's Middle High School, so they could learn and be educated on what does it mean to be transgender. At the time that he came out, there wasn't legal precedence in the state of Maryland for using bathrooms and locker rooms for trans students. At the time that we started conversations that he wanted to use the male locker rooms and bathrooms was at the end of his 7th grade year. And those conversations within the school system outside of us happened during the summer. I checked in a little bit here and there with Dr. Einhorn, who had not quite heard anything from her administrators. So we were kind of feeling secure that, and even Dr. Einhorn was feeling secure that we were probably a go, that he was going to be able to use the bathrooms and locker rooms, because the St. Michael's community, at least at the school level, was very affirming, and they had kind of worked out their own procedural pieces to allow that to happen. And right before his 8th grade year, the day before school started, administration up at the board level called down to Dr. Einhorn, who then had to call me to say they were not going to allow Max to use the male bathrooms or locker rooms. He was starting out very disappointed that he's not going to be able to use the male locker rooms and bathrooms that he was identifying as, and felt very secure at that point to use those gendered segregated facilities. So there was a lot of conversation of how do we address this with the board level staff. We did get support from outside agencies, so PFLAG was a very big support for us, and then Free State Justice was also contacted, actually by our PFLAG friends. So we started having some conversations with attorneys there, just trying to figure out and navigate as parents that are still fairly new to this piece of our life, and what actions do we have and what legal recourse is there. Children should be using bathrooms and locker rooms that align with their gender identity. So we had a lot of conversations throughout the next school year, back and forth between Talbot County Public Schools and our family, along with the support of those others. And we ended up, with an Office of Civil Rights dispute. We put that claim in there. And then before that actually got resolved, because it kept on getting put on hold. But Gavin Grimm's case out of Virginia, out of Gloucester, Virginia, ended up affirming at the state level that he, and actually the circuit court level, so that we would fall under that circuit court decision that, he could use the male bathrooms. Gavin Grimm's case only covered the bathrooms. They didn't mention locker rooms. So our son still wanted to use the male locker rooms. And going into his freshman year, he wanted to continue playing soccer as he had been. And St. Michael's only has a male team. I guess they can considered being a co-ed team, since there's only one team. There's not enough for the gender segregation, male and female teams. So he wanted to be able to, go and change if he needed to change for a game into the male locker rooms, just like the rest of his peers. At that point, we did go ahead and push towards a lawsuit against Talbot County, as they were still in the alignment of he can use the bathrooms, but they were still not going to allow him to use the male locker rooms. They had recommended that he could still continue to use either the girls' locker room or a separate facility, whether the nurse's bathroom or a gender-neutral bathroom that they had created out of a previous staff bathroom. So it was a lot of back and forth with just legal dialogue, a lot of meetings with Free State Justice's attorneys. They're based out of Baltimore, so rather than in-person meetings, it was a lot of phone conversations. And for our son, it really kind of, in a way, disrupted him being a regular teen. While we tried to keep it as regular for him as possible, and he, did things with peers and did all the, typical school things and musicals, concerts, things like that. He had part of his life that none of his friends had to deal with. He had to, on certain days, he had to be home to be able on a phone conference with attorneys to discuss, what was going on, what was the next legal step. Our family, our legal team was looking at the nation as a whole and what was happening as a whole versus just what was happening here in Maryland. And really, it's education is the true key to breaking down those fears and that ignorance. Because if you don't know, then what do you have to go based on is emotion or, maybe some propaganda tool that somebody is using to try to create that fear. But if you get that education of, there is no data that's showing that people are going into locker rooms or restrooms trying to pretend that they are something that they're not. I get the most frustrated with somebody who is not willing to listen. We can all have our different moral views and all that, but if you're willing to listen and try to understand from somebody else's perspective, even if you don't feel at your core that you believe in this, because we all can have different beliefs, but as long as we respect each other, then, I feel that we've accomplished something.